I've made over $75,000 in the past 30 days with over 20 properties that I don't even own through a business model called AirBnB arbitrage. What's crazy is that about 3 years ago, I went completely bankrupt, went into a negative bank balance account. My credit score dropped all the way from 780 to below 500, and I felt completely hopeless at that time about 3 years ago. In fact, I had to go back to driving Uber full time. I was working about 40 hours per week to make about $1,000. I hated that, so I got into the life insurance industry and started making over $10,000 to $20,000 a month with life insurance sales, but I realized it was not something that actually fulfilled me, and I got tired of working 10 hours per day doing that. And that's when I randomly came across a YouTube video with Grant Cardone interviewing a guy named Brian Page talking about the Airbnb rental arbitrage model. So I started getting busy. I started watching YouTube videos. I bought into different coaching programs, and I ended up getting my first Airbnb property within 90 days of that day of me starting to learn about Airbnb arbitrage. And it ended up in a way where my first property started generating me over $2,000 a month in profit, and that's more than I was making while I used to do 30 to 40 hour work weeks with doing Uber, until I got to the point where I'm at 3 years later, where I'm doing over $75,000 a month on the Airbnb platform. I've now also helped hundreds of students learn how to generate thousands of dollars with Airbnb through this business model. For example, one of my students, Askendar, who I helped get started about a year ago, now he has over 12 properties doing over $40,000 a month on the Airbnb platform. And this was all while he still was able to continue his full-time job. Or one of my students, Umna, who was an eye doctor, which I helped her get over 5 properties in less than 6 months working with me, doing over $20,000 a month on Airbnb. And all they needed was good credit, a few $1,000s saved up, so they can actually launch their first Airbnb property. As well as, of course, they needed about a few hours per week so they can outsource most of the work while they still continue to work on their full-time career. Now, let me show you exactly how you guys can do this as well, so you guys can copy my formula and the formula that I've used to help hundreds of students on how to actually launch a successful Airbnb business. So now, number one, let's go into how much money do you actually need to start your first Airbnb property. Most people think to start a real estate business like this, you usually need about $50,000 to $100,000, which is completely false. In this business model with Airbnb arbitrage, you're not buying properties, you're renting properties from landlords, getting their permission, and then listing that property as a short-term rental on platforms like Airbnb. The typical startup costs on doing any kind of property with Airbnb arbitrage is you need first month rent, security deposit, and then furnishing costs. Now, on average, a 1-bedroom property will take you about $5,000 to $7,000 to get started. A 2-bedroom property will probably run you about $7,000 to $10,000 to get started. And a 3 to 4-bedroom house will probably run you about $15,000 to $20,000 to get started. Now, the best part is you can actually leverage 0% business credit cards to use to get these properties started. You don't have to use your personal capital to do this. In fact, I've helped dozens of my students, as long as they had a good credit profile with over a 680 credit score, on average get approved from anywhere from $25,000 to $100,000 on 0% business credit cards with me and my team's help. You can use these 0% business credit cards to buy all your furniture to actually launch your Airbnb properties, so you're not having to use your personal capital. Most of these credit cards have 12 to 18 months of 0% interest, which gives you more than enough time to pay off the credit cards before any kind of interest hits, as long as you get into the right properties and know how to do the business the right way. In fact, a lot of my properties, and I teach my students how to do this, is where you can actually waive the security deposits or sometimes get your first month or even 2 months of rent free once you actually learn how to negotiate with these property owners. In fact, my second property that I ever launched, I was able to get my first month rent free and my security deposit cut in half, which allowed me to start a property with less than $6,000. And that's very possible as long as you have the right skills to do the business. Most people think having a job is bad, which is completely false, because especially in this business, your W-2 job is actually an advantage. Landlords love seeing stable income when you're actually applying for a property, so that you have proof that you already make income to go sign a lease with them. Number two, here's how you can actually get a landlord's approval to actually run that property as an Airbnb. What you want to do is you want to go on websites like Zillow or Trulia and look for 2 to 3 bedroom properties that look modern, that look already remodeled, and they're in the right areas so that they will actually perform as a short-term rental. You should probably look in areas like downtowns, places that already have stadiums, convention centers, near hospitals. So finding a good location in certain areas is very, very crucial when you do this kind of business. Depending on the market you're in, you probably want to target properties that are rent between $1,500 and $3,000 when you're probably starting your first property. Before you reach out to any property owners, you want to make sure you go on Google and look at short-term rental ordinance rules for that market, so that you know if you can actually legally operate a short-term rental in that market. Once you find the right property, you want to reach out to that property owner or landlord with the right pitching script and tell them exactly the business model and tell them how you can actually be valuable to them as a good tenant, and they will be likely open to allowing you to do Airbnb with that property. Again, at the end of the day, it is a numbers game, but if you have a good pitching script that you can use, you will get landlords that will be open to the idea. In the last 3 years, I've done over 20 properties on Airbnb, and I don't have any property that doesn't legally allow me to do short-term rentals, because I get the right verbiage on each leasing contract that allows me to run that property as a short-term rental and has permission from that property owner. So when you're doing this business, you never want to hide it from the landlords. You always want to do it the right way. That way you're not stressed about the business when you're actually operating the business on Airbnb. What you want to do with this kind of business is you want to start with one property, do it the right way, then learn the systems that it takes so that you can scale to 2 properties, 5 properties, 10 properties, and so on. The best part is once you learn how to do one property, you can use that exact system to get more properties. By the way, if you're currently working a 9-to-5 job and you're actually serious about getting into Airbnb on how to get you your first property in the next 30 to 90 days, book a call directly with me or someone from my team. Now, number 3, what's very important is learning how to run this business as a real business, which means you have to learn how to hire teams and automate over 90% of the business. That way you can actually regain your freedom. In fact, out of the 20 properties that I currently operate, there's over 5 or 6 properties that I've never seen in my life in person, and I still make money on them every single month. So after you get an approval from a landlord, the first thing you want to do is you want to order furniture from websites like Amazon, Wayfair, Walmart to the property. Number 2, you're going to hire a furniture builder, where you can actually use a website called Thumbtack to go hire the furniture builder to go build out all your furniture. Number 3, you're going to use a website called Turno to hire a cleaner, and that cleaner will go clean the property, stage up the property. Number 4, you're going to hire a professional photographer. You can use a website called Thumbtack for that as well, and you'll have the professional photographer go take professional photos. After that, once you have the professional photos back, you can actually set up a listing as an Airbnb host, and as long as you make a good listing, you price it correctly, you're going to start seeing bookings come in within 24 to 48 hours of you listing that property. Another very important thing, you want to make sure that you install smart locks or keypad locks. That way you can have guests and your cleaners and your teams automatically get into the property without needing a key. Again, you want to make sure that you automate this business. The best part about Airbnb is you can actually automate and delegate over 90 to 95% of this business if you do it the right way. So when you're setting up your listing, you want to set up automated messages, you want to set up automated pricing through a software called Price Labs, and you want to automate your cleaning process by hiring a cleaner and listing them as a co-host. This is exactly how I manage over 20 properties while I work maybe about 5 to 10 hours per week inside of my business. Now, this business is amazing, but if you don't do it the right way, it's going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars, and that's why I'm sharing this information with you guys, so you guys make sure that you operate this business as a professional and not as an amateur. The biggest mistake people do when starting a business like this is they don't actually get the landlord's approval in contract when signing a lease, so they can legally operate their business or that property as a short-term rental. You never want to be in a position where you get evicted or sued. That's going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars, which you do not want to be in that position. The number 2 thing is you want to make sure that the property you're operating, if it requires a permit, that you get a permit. If it doesn't require a permit, you make sure that you are legally operating it with the right short-term rental rules and regulation, so you don't come into any issues. Number 3, you want to make sure that the area that you're signing a property in, there's actually people coming for short-term visits. If you're in the middle of nowhere, you can have the nicest property, but you're not going to make money. When you do a business like this, location is very important. Another big mistake when you're starting a business like this, you do not want to go cheap on the furniture. Especially in 2026, furniture, design, professional photos is very, very important when you run a short-term rental business. Another big thing, you don't want to burn yourself out doing this business. So you don't want to become the handyman, you don't want to become the cleaner, you don't want to do all that kind of work. You want to be able to automate and systemize all these things so you actually run a real business that gives you freedom and not another headache like a job. Another big thing is you don't want to take too long to start. If you're seeing this video, you're probably seeing this video for a reason, is because you're trying to get into a business like this. The worst thing that you can do is watch this video, come back to a video like this 6 months months and 12 months later and still not have any properties if this is a business that you actually want to pursue. The biggest thing is take this information, take the help that you need, whether it's finding a coach or a mentor that can actually help you, and invest into yourself and get yourself started in the game. And this is exactly how 3 years ago I went from being bankrupt, having negative bank balance, a low credit score, to 3 years later live in my dream apartment, drive one of my dream cars, and I've helped hundreds of students also successfully launch a Airbnb business. It's by implementing this exact system that I've taught to hundreds of people, and it's something that you can do as well. In fact, don't take it from me what I'm saying. You can check my Instagram highlights. You can see people I've been helping for the last 2 years. I have dozens of other student interviews that I've done on my YouTube channel. Feel free to check that out if you want to see proof of me helping other people do this business as well. However, of course, in this short 10-minute video, I probably couldn't include every single little detail on how to do this business exactly. So if you're someone that's looking for that extra push, that extra help, you're looking for a coach that you can work with one-on-one that can actually guide you and help you in real time as you do this business, make sure that you click the link in the description. Make sure that you reach out to me either in the comments on here or on my Instagram. That way we can actually hop on a one-on-one call, game plan on how we can actually help you, and see if it's a good fit for us to actually work together one-on-one. I actually take students from knowing nothing about Airbnb to learning how to launch their first property within 30 to 60 days, and then how they can actually scale their business over 10K a month within 90 to 120 days. So if you are interested, make sure that you click the link in the bio and that you book a call with me and my team. That way we can see if we can actually help you. Also, make sure that you guys subscribe so you guys can watch more videos on Airbnb arbitrage. I'm going to put out more value. Thanks for watching. Peace out.